my name is Kiki and welcome to my channel, We All Grown. Today I want to do a story time of being a victim of domestic violence. I'm not going to get into like full detail because I don't really like talking about it. But I'm going to give you a huge chunk of being in that situation, how it made me feel, what I was thinking the entire time, and how I got out of it. Being in a domestic violence situation, you don't never know what is going through your significant other's head. Now, women are victims of domestic violence, more women, but also men. Men can be a victim of domestic violence too. Although it's not common in men, there are a lot of men who are victims of domestic violence. Being out, being an advocate, speaking out about domestic violence. I've noticed that there is men in this group that I have. There is men who are actually victims of domestic violence. So not only can men be violent, but women be violent too. Now, it's not common in men, but it's very common in women because men have so much strength over a woman that gives them the upper hand. And it makes a guy feel uplifted, make them feel like they are what's the word for it? It makes them feel superior. It makes them feel like they are on top, and they're not. At the end of the day, they are cowards. At the end of the day, they are really scared, and they are very insecure with themselves, which is why they find value, and it makes them feel good about themselves when they beat on somebody, make that person feel very little. My baby daddy took my strength away from me, my voice away from me, and he made me feel very insecure. I had low self-esteem, and I felt like at that point nobody loved me. And it's not because I told people and they didn't help me. It was because the one person that I thought loved me really didn't, and it was my baby daddy. When you're young and you're in love, that is what they call dumb love, because you in love with this picture of who this person is. With me, I was in love with the person who was also the father of my son, and I thought he loved me for 2.5 years we was together. In those 2.5 years, I never felt so scared, so alone, so dumb, and so vulnerable in that state. Like, he made me, one day, he could make me feel like I'm the most beautiful girl in the world, and the next, he made me feel like I was just a person off the street, or I was just something on the bottom of a shoe. He made me feel so low, so dirty, so disgusted, and it was the worst feeling ever. Being a victim of domestic violence, it was scary. It was nights where I couldn't sleep. It was nights where he wouldn't let me sleep. It was nights where I spent most of my night in the hospital because I would have to go because I have a broken arm or a broken leg or a bruised face. I spent plenty of nights scared, crying, and unknown of what the next day may bring. So domestic violence was a real wake-up call for me, and I remember being I remember whenever I would watch YouTube. I remember looking at a lot of people who did story times of being a victim of domestic violence. And when you're actually in that situation, you actually think, and you just like you wouldn't. It's just an unsettling feeling, because that's something you would never think that you would be in. Like, you would never be in that position. I've never said never to anything in life, because you never know what could or what couldn't or what could go wrong. The only good thing I got out of being in a relationship with my baby's father was my baby. He came at a much needed time, and he actually is who rescued me from the situation that I was in. That was a real wake-up call. That was the light that went off in my head, like, you know what? Now it's time for you to get out of this situation. Now it's time for you to realize that that what you have growing is bigger than this situation. He doesn't love you. He's shown you on multiple occasions he does not love you. So in this moment, in this time, you need to not think about yourself, but what's in the best interest of this child that you have growing inside of you. So I took that as a leadway. I took another trip to the hospital just to get out of that situation. I had to leave that situation. And the only way that I felt that I would be able to leave that situation is through the hospital. It was a nurse in there who I had dealt with previously. And she always told me when I was ready to talk about it, she'll be there. So I took that as an opportunity to tell her that yes, in fact, I was getting beat, and that I was scared to leave, and I was scared to say anything, feared for what might happen to me. That nurse helped me, and I thank her every day for that moment, because she was there previously when she told me, if I do not get out of this situation, he is going to kill me. And at that time, I was still scared, and I still felt like it was a moment in time where I was more willing to die than to stay in that situation. I was so scared to leave, but I didn't want to be there either. So my only option was stay and continue to have him beating on me, and his hands have my blood on it, or just die. Like, death was the only thing I thought about daily, was dying, because I was in a situation that I wasn't pleased with anymore. In the beginning, he made me feel like I was his everything. I was his queen. He loved me. He gave me whatever I wanted. When I tell you, in the beginning, everything was good. I don't know what happened between 4 to 6 months and then a year. I don't know what happened. I was with him since I was 15. We started dating in 2011. From 2011 to the end of 2012, we dated. I left him at the end of 2012. And in 2013, I had my child. So December of 2012 was the end of all the beatings. It was the end of him. Was the end of feeling like I wasn't in control anymore. At that moment in time, I had full control of the situation, and I took advantage of it. I took advantage of the situation whenever I allowed the last of being hit and being abused. I allowed that. Once I allowed that, and I was then transported to the hospital again, that was the end of allowing any man to take advantage of me and feel like he had the power to do anything to me. Now, it's not like that. I noticed red flags, and those red flags that I noticed, I should have noticed back then, but I was young and I was dumb, and I'm not no more. That situation, if nothing else woke me up and all my days of living, that one was the one. He took me out of school. I was no longer in school. Not only that, but then I had to be bed rested the last 4 months of my pregnancy because I was high risk. So being that I was in the 11th grade whenever I had to quit school, I didn't finish school. It wasn't until 2015 that I actually went back to school and finished, graduated, got my high school diploma. So even with the child, so a lot of times it may be a bad situation, but it's the sunshine at the end that'll get you through whatever it is that you're going through. My situation is not as bad as a lot of situations were, but they were bad enough. They were bad enough to know that that's not something you want to put yourself through. That's something that you shouldn't allow. Any man that loves you won't hurt you, and I had to learn that. I remember somebody telling me that love doesn't hurt. Love isn't supposed to hurt. He claimed he loved you, then put his hands on you would be the last thing that he does. So that's something that I think about daily and I take with me daily, because that's another thing that got me through, was me actually realizing that this is not love. What I'm experiencing isn't love. And I see a lot of comments under certain situations where you don't know the full situation, so therefore you shouldn't speak on it. But a lot of people are like, I would never let a man beat on me, or she dumb. Well, you don't know until you're actually in that position. Never say never, because nobody is bigger than that situation. You can never say, oh, I'll never let a man put his hands on me. If you've never been in that position, then you cannot say that, because when you're in that position, you never know what's going through somebody's head. I was scared, which is why I didn't do anything that could jeopardize my life right then and there. So, I mean, a lot of people have their own opinions, and that's fine. You can have your own opinions, but just be mindful of the situation, and be mindful that you not only that, but you don't know the whole entire situation. So that's just something to take along with you in life. Being a victim of domestic violence, a lot of stuff that I look at differently. I speak out on a lot of stuff. I speak up for a lot of people, because recently I had a Facebook friend who was braver than me, because my situation happened back in 2011. Her situation happened back in 2014, 15, and she was brave enough to post, it was like a picture message of like everything that she'd been through. She made her story a Facebook story of like pictures of her and her downfalls, like her whenever she was with her baby daddy, the things he put her through, and she got a lot of backlash from it. And I feel like that's not something you do. That's not your place. You don't throw backlash on somebody for something that we don't have full control over. She was brave enough to put her story out there. She was brave enough to put pictures out. Now, a lot of people won't talk about it. A lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people don't feel comfortable even reliving the situation. Even more so to think about like that situation, being physically abused would put your mental in a situation where you don't want that in your head. It takes up a lot of space in your head because you think about it and you just think about where you have come. You just like, wow, like I went through this. Wow, look where I am today. And I don't, in the past I have not talked about it. Like I told my boyfriend the situation a while ago, and he didn't want to hear it after I think probably like a good 2 minutes of me telling him the exact situation, how I got my child out of the situation and everything. And he was just like, dang. He was like, I never put my hands on a female. I don't think that's okay. And a lot of people do think like that. Like that, it's not okay. But I look at it as I got a child out of it. That's the only thing I could look at it and say. That's the only good thing I can think about it. Now going back through it is I got a child out of it. I got the best child out of it, and I'm telling you, I love that little boy like that's my heart. That's the only piece of me on this earth. And so whenever I think about it, I don't think about the bad in it. I think about the fact that through all the bad, I got something good out of it. And so, and you know, having him did help a lot. Like you do have to do the work to get to a good place where not only can you not cry about it and still want to talk about it, but you can have so much confidence when you do talk about it. Like speaking for domestically abused women and men, I've known that you can't just tell your story once. You need to tell your story a few times. And I've seen a lot of people, and I'm just like, if you going through something, give it to God. Let God handle it. Ask him every day. Pray every day. Pray for it. Pray and thank him for putting you in a situation that you are in, and thank him when he gets you out of that situation, because the storm doesn't last forever. You thank God every day for the good and for the bad, because whether it is good or bad, you are still here. That means that you have not fulfilled your purpose here in life. So every day that you wake up, you thank God for waking you up. You might not be in the best situation, but I promise you, you look at your situation, and then you look at a homeless person's situation. Whose situation do you think is worse? Yours, or the person who doesn't have a home to go to every day, or something to eat every day? Somebody who has to actually have to sit on the curb somewhere and ask for money, beg for money, for shelter or for food, or even just for a few clothing. Around this time is getting cold, and I have decided that I want to do something for the homeless for this year, for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So it's just like, when you think about your situation, you could think about it again and be like, it could be a lot worse. So even though I was a victim of domestic violence, I thank God that I'm not dead. I thank God that I got out of it before it got to a point where I no longer could control it. Because I didn't have much control over it, but I had control over how I lived the rest of my life. And I had control over the fact that I didn't want to live the rest of my life in fear. I didn't want to live the rest of my life with him, whether he was my child's father or not. I didn't want to live in a place where I was scared. I didn't want to live like that. And I loved myself and my child too much to even decide to stay in that situation. It wasn't a situation that I wanted. So I say all that to say that being a victim of domestic violence, it takes strength. And even to talk about it, it takes heart. And though a lot of people may still have their opinion of what they would have did, what they should have did, what they could have did, it's not always like that. It's not always like that. So even as you think about everything that I've said, just know nobody knows your story. Nobody knows your story but you. And because you have that, you have power over how your story ends. Nobody is living in your shoes, and nobody is going to write your story for you. You have the pen to write your own ending. If you want to stay in a situation hoping it's going to get better, then that's your right. You can do that. But I want to let you know there's nothing good coming out of staying in a relationship where you're hurting. There's nothing good coming out of that at all. There's nothing good going to the hospital, running up a hospital bill all the time because your husband or your boyfriend doesn't know how to keep his hands to himself. There's nothing that can justify that. He's a coward, and that's just that. No man is going to put his hands on any woman. So that's my story. That's how my story was wrote, and I also ended my story when I decided to leave. So I decided that I would get on here, tell that story, and also give you a little piece of advice along with it. So thanks guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell her mama, daddy, grandma, grandpa, uncle, cousin, and I'll see y'all in the next video. And remember, if nobody loves you, Kiki do. Bye.